Okay, so because we're at the beginning, I have to kind of throw two things in one. So I had you watch the Unit 1 video, Lesson 1 last night. Hopefully we've gone over in the first 40 minutes or so and finished up simplifying expression, like combining like terms. I want to talk about a couple other things that are kind of ancillary and important for you to understand coming out of Part 1. And so we're still going to be evaluating expressions. We're going to be finding square and cube roots. And we're going to be finding absolute values. As a review, we talked about combining like terms last night, and then hopefully you're finishing this up today. You just put it together. All right. One quick thing on fractions. When you're typing fraction in your calculator, you must use parentheses. So, for example, if I'm doing 4/3 times 2/5, I'm going to go parentheses 4 divided by 3 times parentheses 2 divided by 5. And we hit enter. And then we hit math enter. And our answer is 8/15. If I have an improper fraction, I take the big number times the small, and then I add the top. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 7 is equal to 11 halves. And then I do 4/9 times 11 halves, and I get 44/18. And we're fine to leave it like that. It's going to end up being equal to 2 4/9. But I'm not necessarily worried about that. Same thing here. If I'm dividing, I'm going to have negative 2 times 3, negative 24/3, divided by 2/5. And we go from there. Let me do the calculator deal. It's going to be a big old number. Negative 20. Make sure you circle your answers whenever you do stuff for me in class. And then the final one is 8/63 if you're ahead of me. Remember, whenever we do a division, you're going to evaluate each term. So evaluate the top, then the bottom, and then divide. Do not try to divide first. So if I have negative 6 on the top because I've added those together, negative 3 on the bottom because I've added those together, that's equal to 2. If you try to divide them out, you'd have gotten 1 plus 4, that's 5. That's the incorrect answer. So you want to make sure you do the top and then the bottom. Okay? Go ahead and do 14 and 15 on your own. I'll check them, and then you can move on. So now's a good time to pause the video. Do 14 and 15 on your own. All right, so hopefully I've just checked your 14 and 15. Let's go ahead and look at absolute value. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So if I have the absolute value of negative 4 is 4 units away from 0. So that's equal to 4. The absolute value of 2.7 is 2.7. Where it gets tricky is when you have a negative outside the absolute value. Because I'm sure you've always been told that absolute value cannot be negative. It's not true. The absolute value of 2/3 is 2/3. But the negative outside is the same way as parentheses. It has to stay. So even though the absolute value of negative 125 is 125, the answer is still going to be negative because of the negative outside of the absolute value. Remember, when you have absolute value, you break it into parts. So this is 11. Negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11, but the absolute value of 11 is 11. And then minus the negative 4 is the same thing as saying plus 4. So when I take all three of these pieces together, I just get 4. You can use your TI-83 for help. You're going to click Math. Then you're going to click Right Arrow. Then you click enter or 1, and you type in the number or numbers or expression. And do not forget to close the parentheses. So go ahead and try these two. Now's a good time to pause your video and try these two using your calculator. Okay, I got 9 and 330. Oh, nope, I'm sorry. 550 minus 210. Yeah, that's 330. Okay, that's 330, yep. Alright, so that covers absolute value. We also have to cover square roots. You guys know that 8 squared is 64, negative 8 squared is 64. However, the square root of 64 can be 8 or negative 8. And the principle is because if it's a positive times a negative, you get a negative. But if it's a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative, then you end up with a positive both ways. So the question is, can you find the square root of a negative number? And the answer is no, because a negative divided by a positive is equal to a negative. And that's not possible. And a negative divided by a negative is equal to a positive. So you cannot find the square root of a negative number. If you try doing your calculator, you're going to get an error. Cubed roots are fine. You know that 2 cubed is 8. Negative 2 cubed is negative 8. So the cubed root of 8 is just 2. But unlike squares, you can do the cubed root of negative 8. And that's negative 2. And you can find the cube root of a negative number. And the reason why you can do that is because a negative times a negative times a negative is a negative. Now, if you want to do square root, you can do square root by doing I don't want to say you hit second and then x squared, and so it'll be this sign that you're looking for. And after you type in the number or expression, inside the left parenthesis, you want to close the parenthesis by clicking the right. Okay. All right, so that's what you do for a square root. And if you need help with that, just come see me and I'll do it. For the cube root, you click Math. And then number 4, you type the term or expression. Type the term or expression, and then you close the parentheses, just like we talked about. So here's a chance to practice, and I'll do one of each for you, and then you'll check the rest on your own, and we'll go from there. So we've got second square root of 225. That's 15. Cube root of negative 729. So we have math 4, negative 729, close the parentheses, and that's negative 9. Okay? Plus or minus the cube root of 132, that just means your answer is going to be plus or minus whatever you end up getting. And yeah, you know how to do it from there. So go ahead and finish these. I'll pause the video. You pause the video, and then I'll unpause it for the answers real fast. But then after you're done with that, we'll talk about what's next. Okay, so the only one that was decimal ended up being that one, and it's plus or minus 5.09. For cube roots, that's fine. We'll talk about what we do with square roots later on in the semester. And then, yep, so I did the other math here, got negative 2 and 11. Your only work is to do odds or evens on this page. So go ahead and get that done and check it off with me before you leave today. And then your homework is to watch the next video.